That was beautiful. Thank you. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 21 in the gray hymnal, For the Beauty of the Earth.
For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of ear and eye, for the heart and mind's delight, for the mystic harmony, linking sense to sound and sight. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the wonder of each hour, of the day and of the night, hill and vale and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars of light. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of human care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle thoughts and mild. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like to welcome you to this place, this space of remembrance. I'm the Reverend Katie Romano-Griffin, Senior Minister here at All Souls, and I want you to know this is a place to hold your grief, your tears, and your joy as you remember a life well lived and a person well loved. If this is your first time in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, we want you to know that we are a part of a congregational Protestant lineage of Christian churches, but more than a century ago, We decided that we'd rather build our religious community on the promises that we make and about how we respect and treat each other rather than on a single uniformity of belief. As a non-creedal community, we honor religious wisdom and truth wherever we find it, in the great religious traditions around the world, as well as in our own hearts and science. When we grieve, we use our memorial services or celebrations of life as occasions to celebrate the life of our loved one, rather than as an occasion for a proclamation of faith, because for us, a life well lived is the ultimate testament of faith. And we honor the fact that each of us here has brought our own spiritual understanding of the mysteries of life and death, and we will find consolation today and going forward in those understandings as we work our way through this loss. Tom was a titan, a visionary, a physician, an educator, a naval research medical officer, rock and roll bandmate, sailor. He filled so many wondrous roles to so many people, but perhaps within those roles and his laudable achievements, the greatest of those is being a family man, a spouse, a friend, and a loved one that you all could count on. When someone like Tom passes, someone whose life affected so many in positive ways, we often wonder, why him? Why now? Not having those answers can be hard. And as we celebrate him today, we might struggle with these or other questions, and that's okay. We are here together for this very reason. Being human, as Dylan Thomas writes, we rage against the dying of the light. So don't be perplexed if you are feeling rage or other emotions now. Instead, I invite you to be present to them. Accept them. These are doorways into life's deeper understanding. And while we know very well that death is an inevitable part of our lives, we also know as we learn to love one another that eventually our love will include loss and grief. Spiritual activist Valerie Kaur says that grief is the price of love. Because no matter how lucky we are in our lives, when we love fully, saying goodbye is going to come to each of us, and we will grieve. All of our knowing doesn't make it any easier. These final farewells always come at a loss for which we are indeed unprepared. So let us gather here today, summoned by our respect and affection, to demonstrate our love for both the living and the dead. Let us gather to comfort one another, for we have suffered a great loss. Let us gather to celebrate together, because we have been blessed by a life well lived. Let us gather with love and gratitude. May peace pervade this space today in the hearts of all who are gathered herein. So let us invoke together the spirit of life and love in which we live, move, and have our being with us for this hour as we give thanks for Tom's life. I invite you now, if you're comfortable, to please rise in body or spirit as we say together the words of our chalice, which are on the back wall. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. Thank you. You may be seated. Perfect. Thank you.
Some words from the poet and philosopher, Mark Nepo. There are those who water the seed of light that no one sees. They are the visionaries. And those who hold others feeling the power of what they can become. They are teachers. And those who care to love the truth of what is until heaven is revealed here on earth. They are sages. Few are celebrities, few are rich. The best are often silent, deflecting attention, bowing to the gift. This is for them and their lineage, and the hope we can do this for each other.
Our sister Margaret, Rob, and I, like many others, I suspect, spent a lot of time at the Brodies while we were growing up. Their home was like a second home for us and for our friends. And Tom and the Brodies welcomed me into their home for 2 years while I was finishing high school. During that time, one of the things I remember the most was family dinner every night, talking about our day, what Francie and Toby had been up to, debating politics. And Tom introduced me to the darkroom, to Nikon cameras, and instilled in me a love for capturing moments in time. I wouldn't be a photographer today without that opportunity and influence. I visited the Brodies just over a month ago in Florida, and finally had the chance to talk to Tom about all that he had brought to my life and thank him for his role. Watching Tom and Vicki together, I was struck by their love and appreciation for one another.
As a kid, I remember Tom in several different ways. Tom was intimidating at times, and stern and quiet. I remember him as a technophile. And I remember his dry sense of humor, his love of indie races, and the importance of his friends and family. I remember skiing with him and with the Broadies on numerous vacations, a passion that I've now been able to share with my own kids. Sailing on the Chesapeake with them, getting stitches from him for a cut on my face after an unfortunate incident with a beer bottle. On top of all of that, he was really a role model for me and a mentor. Tom got me research jobs in the summer at IU. He wrote me letters of recommendation for medical school, and he was really my connection to a career in medicine that I didn't otherwise have. I have a hard time thinking of many people that were as influential as he was in my life, although Vicki was one of them also. And what I know is that the impacts that he had on my whole family are undoubtedly shared by so many of you.
Dear Tom, it was only yesterday that we talked passionately about our cameras driving around a destroyed Sanibel Island. I am forever grateful that you showed me how to take photography seriously and for helping to ignite that initial spark in me back in my high school days. The same goes for our wonderful sailing trips. If it wasn't for you and the Cascaret, I probably wouldn't sail the lagoon with my friends nowadays. It's a huge shame that you won't be able to come on a little sailing trip on your next trip to Venice. Thank you for everything, Tom. I will remember and cherish the great times we had together for as long as I live.
I first met Dr. Broadie, Tom as I later knew, as an upcoming intern when I went to a party at Russ Dilley's farm and watched a rock and roll band perform. What a surprise when the lead guitar player turned out to be my attending on my first rotation as an intern. Over the next 5 years of training, I learned so much from this quiet, unassuming gentleman of surgery. I learned that you come to work well-dressed, frequently wearing a bow tie, never in scrubs. I learned that you are to act professionally always, except when alone in the office, and maybe the phone landline takes the brunt of the pent-up frustrations. Ah, yes, meticulous attention to detail. This was always paramount in the operating room. Always proceed stepwise from step 1 to step 2. Always dry your hands with the towel folded a particular way. Stick tie every vessel when operating on the thyroid. It was always so quiet in the operating room with Dr. Broadie in hopes of being able to hear his specific instruction. Cynicism and sarcasm were mental coping mechanisms to survive daily challenges. But getting to know Dr. Broadie on a personal level was special. He was my first attending to ever tell me to call him Tom. He invited Terry and me to his home at Christmas for the Sing for Your Supper events that were very special. There, we were always amazed at the repertoire of the mixed drinks Tom and Vicki could whip up. Tom, a generation of surgeons owes you a huge debt of gratitude for your guidance, expertise, and patience.
Don't worry, Vicki, it looks longer because the print is bigger, so that's... Tom spent 4 years from 1959 to 1963 at Princeton. Supposedly key formative years for all of us, but Tom was already formed. He was more thoughtful, more mature, more controlled than the rest of us. Even though he did drink and smoke like we all did, he even managed to do that in a controlled way, except Tom had a guitar case. And when he took the guitar out of the case, and his shy smile became more electrified, and he started to make and play music, he was a different Tom. Tom was my bandmate in Princeton's first rock and roll band. Tom was my roommate. Tom was my dear friend. The band, led by a guy with an unlikely name for a Princeton graduate, Ivory Jim Hunter, was Tom's other life. He was an extraordinarily talented musician who experimented with guitar sounds which became classics in later years. He joined in doing foolish things which Jim excelled at and which we all reluctantly but kind of happily followed. We played all over the East Coast college circuit, often driving all night wedged into my 1955 Chevy convertible with a ripped top, which Tom insisted on holding for hours so the car didn't blow off the road. We played in New York's famous Peppermint Lounge. We played on shows with famous rock stars. We even played in some grungy dive joints. Tom made the music with our talented electric piano player who went on to be an acclaimed psychiatrist, Peter Politan, who was with us today to celebrate Tom. Tom made us more stable but didn't hold us down. His droll wit provided the first and last laugh of every night we spent together because somehow Tom could drink and stay awake and the rest of us couldn't. We kept playing for years after the Princeton years, every 5 years at Princeton, until Jim died a year ago. We lost our other guitar player, Homer Russell, 7 years ago. Tom loved the band. For him, it was a family. 5 different guys from Indiana, New York, Illinois, and Great Bend, Kansas, with different levels of real talent. But Tom was the musical leader and the truth teller. We made a record, and Tom kept reminding us that the record sales didn't actually reflect anything because most of them were to family and friends. And he gave us that sane commentary about how to keep our lives balanced. I remember vividly when he called me to tell me about Vicky. It was after a long catch-up conversation, and it was pure Tom. His presentation was, "Oh, Marty, I met someone." My reply, "Great. Where? Who? What someone?" His reply, "It's a woman, and I will probably marry her. She is very nice, and I know you will like her, and there's a remote chance she will even like you." That was the end of the conversation. Tom understood that understatement can be profoundly insightful, and in his hands, it was also hilarious. Tom's friendship made us all feel better, and Tom as a person made us all better as a people. Because he was so formed, he helped the 4 of us grow up with more organized common sense and a greater willingness to play life's music as written with carefully planned improvisation. It is a Tom Broadie understatement that I want to conclude by saying, Tom, I will miss you. Rest in peace, my friend.
Please rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire.
Though I may speak with bravest fire and have the gift to all inspire, and have not love, my words are vain as sounding brass and hopeless gain. Though I may give all I possess, and striving so my love profess, but not begin by love within, the prophet soon turns strangely thin. Come, Spirit, come, our hearts control, our spirits long to be made whole. Let inward love guide every deed. By this we worship and are freed.
You may be seated.
I first got to know the doc in the 8th grade. I dropped back from the 8th grade and did it twice. He was the first guy I ever met that spent all his time studying. He was the smartest kid in class. I had spent all my time studying the year before, but I was only trying to stay in school. He had only once through the 8th grade. I had twice, so I had the second time. It was quite easy for me. In the 9th grade, we were both on the track team, and we would work very hard, running, and Tom particularly so. Some of us took time off. He never did. He was constantly running. And every time we had a track meet, I would notice that he would get done with his first race, and he'd get down on all fours, and he'd start retching and throwing up. And I thought, well, this is really strange, because after he did that, he'd get up and run the rest of the races that he had to race, and he had no problems. But this is strange. Then, as we went on and got older, I saw that everything he did, he was immensely involved in and dedicated to. And everything he did had to be his absolute best. He didn't care whether he was the best of everybody, but he cared that everything he did was as well done as he could possibly do it. And this carried on through the rest of his life. When he was sailing, he was constantly adjusting his course, studying his course. He'd go down and look at his computer, look at the weather, readjust his course. He'd do this all the time. When he was taking photographs, which he always had the camera around his neck, he always wanted the best pose, the best lighting, the best of everything. And when you saw the slides that he took, you knew you weren't seeing the ones that he didn't like. You only saw the best ones. So far as personality-wise and personal life, He had a wonderful marriage for 50 years, 50 plus years, to Vicki. He has 2 great children, both well brought up, both well mounted, and he was happy with them all. So in this case, you know, Tom has sailed his last course. So I hope that right now he can relax and enjoy the sail.
Earlier this morning, the Reverend asked us in the other room to think of one word that reminded us of Tom. And I said, Manhattans. And that got a bit of a laugh from the crowd in there, as it did just here. But I also should have said cascaret. If you happen to know what the word cascaret means, it's for laxatives. That's the name of his sailboat. Cascaret. God, who would ever name a boat like that? Whew. So Tom was my friend for 79 years. I guarantee you, I'm the longest standing friend he had. I met him when we were 3 years old at Polly, somebody or other's pre-nursery school. And then his mother and my mother were very close friends. So we met before we even knew each other, before we knew each other, and carried that on through life. So Tom's been in my life for many years. We've sailed around the world. We've traveled around the world with Tom and Vicki and Barbara and I. We just had a great life for Tom. So I'm thrilled to say, God bless Tom. And I want to read something that Vicki gave me yesterday from her guest bathroom. Not her guest room, her guest bathroom. Very distinguished place to read this from. This is called Old-Fashioned Friendship. It isn't how to, I put my glasses on. It isn't hard to find the hand of friends we meet each day who love us in the sunshine but with the clouds and drift away. But good old-fashioned friends who share your woes and please us too are very rare. And for this hand of friendship I've found in you. So I hope when Tom gets up to where the pearly gates are and he meets the man in white, he'll be admitted immediately because he's done no wrongs. But I know for sure that when Jim and I arrive at the pearly gates, we're going to have to push the down button on the elevator. Thank you.
Our Uncle Tom was a warm and giving person. Tom's gestures were often louder than his words, which were softly spoken and with a humor that we only came to understand as we got older. He was mischievous, with a quiet laugh, often at his own jokes. That gave it away. He was an incredible host who generously shared with others and wanted you to feel welcome and comfortable in his presence. Tom understood the impact of the simple gesture of ensuring you had a beverage to your liking as the foundation for welcoming you in. Our fondest memories of Tom are from our collective time spent on the Cascaret. Tom loves sailing, and the fact that he shared that love with us is something we hold dear. He and Vicki invited us there when we were still young enough to be a handful, through our awkward young adult stage and with our growing families. He taught us how to tie knots properly, and we came to appreciate his talent for making sandwiches on board and cooking scrapple for breakfast. Those Cascaret sails taught us about family, togetherness, adventure, nature, and the connectivity between boating and swearing. Tom loved being part of the Taylor family, and family celebrations at Thanksgiving and Christmas were at the heart of where we saw him most often. In these gatherings, he preferred one-to-one connection to boisterous debates at the dining room table. He held the coveted role of chief turkey carver, a title shared by only one other, but forever the teacher, he passed along these surgical carving skills to the younger generation to prepare them to step up someday. He understood the precious nature of our time together, and he chronicled our family moments with his camera, including a traditional group shot at the end of the evening, a special way to watch the evolution of our extended family over time. As we were growing up, Tom hosted many slideshows to reminisce and celebrate life, just as we are today. Thank you, Uncle Tom, for your generosity and the underlying lessons that we learned about family, connectedness, and seeing the humor around us. We will miss you immensely.
Please rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 354, We Laugh, We Cry.
And there will be a short musical interlude in between each verse as well. We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear imagination freely running wild. We dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of this child, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a time to be together. And with the grace of age, we share the wonder of youth, and we believe that growing is an answer. Our lives are full of wonder and our time is very brief. The death of one among us fills us all with pain and grief. But as we live, so shall we die, and when our lives are done, the memories we shared with friends, they will linger on, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a place to be together. We have the right to grow, we have the gift to believe that peace will in our living is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we'll come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found our joy being together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even to question truly is an answer.
You may be seated. I give to you this poem, which has been credited to many sources, Hopi, Navajo, and author Claire Harner. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am the thousand winds that blow. I am the diamond glints in the snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. As you wake with each morning's hush, I am the swift, uplifting rush of quiet birds in circling flight. I am the transcending night. Do not stand by my grave and cry, I am not there. I did not die. Tom lived a life of service to others. He can't be found in the grave, but he can be found in your heart and in the lives of all who have been affected by his love, his care, his professional career. It is said that anyone can count the number of seeds in an apple, but no one can count the number of apples that could spring from a single seed. When we think of the depth and the breadth of Tom's life, the people whose lives he held and saved, the many who he taught who went on to save lives, and the people they taught who went on to save lives, the artists that he has inspired, those he's touched with his music, and all of the many other ways that Tom lived, moved, and had his being in this world. Those ripples go across the globe and are endlessly ever moving into the great beyond. This is the impact that a single life can have. And you were in the inner circle touched by this life. So what will you do about that? How might you go forward into this world? How might you do, as Henry David Thoreau suggested, to suck the marrow of the bones of life? I give you this charge to live full out, to always do your best, even if it isn't the same as someone else's best. You don't need to be in first, as it has been said, but you need to be in first for you. Have the courage to move from in front of the projector to behind it, to let the information shine, to teach, to care, to love without reservation, that right mix of sternness and joy and life and cynicism and coping and growing and inspiring. Be visionaries. And don't go home until it's done. May it be so. Amen. And blessed be. In just a moment, the family will be exiting the sanctuary and heading straight through the double doors into the reception area. Please join them there after the service and remain seated for the postlude, unless you'd like to dance, in which case the family would love for you to do so.